Now, my year started with dark training sessions before work and has ended with a new commute that consists of unlit sections along the Bristol to Bath cycle path. This has meant plenty of time spent using the Lezyne 1300 XXL. Now, I've got this set up kind of like this, mounted upside down on a GoPro attachment under my Lifeline out front mount. This keeps the front end of my bike a little cleaner and ensures that the light is spread on the road ahead, unencumbered by any cables or computers. Now, sticking it down here might even act as an aero fairing. It doesn't, but any hope of being slippery through the wind is crushed by my double panniers that sit on the rear of my bike. As I now ride mostly in the dark through the week, I have it automatically set up in race mode. This gives me the simplicity of just 2 buttons to flick between 1300 lumens and 150 lumens. The change in brightness is stark, but it works perfectly well for the lit, unlit, lit nature of my commute. Battery life is also solid, giving me well over 2 hours in the most powerful overdrive mode. A really good light. Will these win a fashion award? Actually, I don't know much about fashion, so they actually might. What I know for sure is that when sleet is falling and you've got freezing road spray plastering your legs, Spatz's Roadman Overshoes are going to keep you warm and dry. They're very robust with a Kevlar toe box protecting them when, well, I inevitably slip a pedal while trying to clip in, or as I've done on many occasions, catch the sharp end of the mudguard stay that I should have trimmed down, but didn't because I'm very, very lazy. Nothing about them makes them good for going fast, but they're just what you need for doing the hard yards in the depths of winter. That said, I think I'll find it hard to avoid the draw of a warm gym, but I am expecting this year to do several commutes in them, so they'll certainly see some use.
As someone who's happily embraced indoor training, I have become BikeRadar's primary tester of new smart trainers and related gear. Given that I've tested some of the best smart trainers available this year, including those near the top of the price scale such as the Wahoo Kickr V6 and the Elite Justo. The most exciting launch of the year in this space was undoubtedly the Zwift Hub though. If you want to do any significant amount of indoor training, then a direct drive smart trainer, as opposed to a wheel-on one, is a key investment as these typically offer the best experience when connected to an indoor cycling app. If you'd like to learn more about the different types of smart trainers available and which one might be the best fit for you, then click on the link in the description below or the card above to watch a video that we made on this very topic recently. Until recently though, direct drive smart trainers have mostly been either very expensive or have faults which compromise the experience. The Zwift Hub though comes closer than any other smart trainer to solving that problem. At £449 or 499 euros or dollars, including a choice of cassette, it is one of the cheapest direct drive smart trainers available. Despite this, it offers impressive ride feel, is exceptionally quiet and does a good job of producing accurate power and cadence data in most scenarios. Is it completely perfect in every single way? No, not quite. Very high flywheel speeds do trip up the power accuracy a bit, and it doesn't fold away for storage, but overall, these are forgivable issues at this price point. For most people then, whether you use Zwift or a different app, it will be very difficult to justify spending more money on a smart trainer. I am a huge fan of lace-up cycling shoes, both for performance and aesthetic reasons. So, when Specialized announced the S-Works 7 Lace, its long-awaited successor to the cult classic Sub-6 shoe, I immediately knew I wanted to test the set. Rather than pitching them at the Aero is Everything crowd, Specialized pivoted slightly and marketed the S-Works 7 Lace as a shoe for the type of people who like the AFOS. Fortunately though, these are still ruthlessly racy shoes under the hood. They are exceptionally comfortable, but the sole doesn't give anything away in terms of stiffness, and they still have a sleek aerodynamic profile. Of course, it's debatable whether stiff shoes actually contribute anything to performance, and if you'd like to learn more about whether cycling shoe stiffness does actually matter, we made a video on this very topic earlier this year, so if you'd like to watch that, click on the link in the description or on the card above. But for me, I think it does make road cycling shoes more comfortable, and therefore I'm very happy to have it. I was also impressed by the level of attention to detail across the whole shoe too. These have adjustable cleat bolt holes, reinforced upper lace eyelets for greater durability, and even the stretch resistant laces aren't just bog standard, off the shelf things. With an RRP of £300, these are undoubtedly very expensive cycling shoes, but I found this particular pair very hard to fault. In fact, I think these shoes are so good that I spent my hard-earned cash on a white set when I saw them being sold at a discount, but don't expect to see me wearing them until next summer. I even managed to get hold of a set of the original Warp Speed lace covers too for that extra marginal gain. Did I need another pair of high-end road cycling shoes in my life? No, absolutely not. But if I could only have one pair, these might be the ones.
I finally built my Pinarello Gang K up at the start of this year, a project almost 2 years in the making for various complicated reasons. Being an Italian frame, I just had to spec it with a Campagnolo group set. The original plan was to plump for the third tier chorus, but my arm was twisted for Record. Despite the group set being announced in April 2018, it's still a terrific performer and probably the best mechanical group set I've ever ridden. The shifting is brilliantly precise, and the hoods, resplendent with carbon levers, are a happy place to perch your hands on. There's no mistaking when you've changed gear. I love the reassuring ka-clunk sound and the meaningful interaction of feeling the cable shift the derailleur. In my opinion, electronic shifting hasn't, and likely never will be, able to replicate this glorious sensation. I also really rate the UltraShift mechanism. This allows you to downshift up to 5 gears at once. No other brand's mechanical group set allows you to downshift more than 1 gear at a time. The carbon crankset is a work of art to admire, as are the carbon lever shifter blades. Record doesn't have its own namesake chain and cassette, so I opted for the chorus level option rather than Super Record. As far as I'm concerned, chains and cassettes are wear items, and I just couldn't justify the extra expense. Campagnolo's hit a home run with the hydraulic disc brakes too. They're simply phenomenal, with bucket loads of power and modulation, and easily the best of the big three. There's no surprise the brand didn't change the winning recipe for Ekar, which I've also found to be a top performing gravel group set. Other than the price, the only gripe I have with Record's performance is the front derailleur shifting, which isn't quite as refined as Shimano's. The shift doesn't feel quite as light, and the trim feature is a little finicky to get used to, although on the plus side it's a lot easier to set up. I'd also like to see Campagnolo introduce the C-Link quick link to the 12-speed chain, which still requires a joining pin that requires peening. Otherwise, Record is pretty much as good as it gets for mechanical shifting, and other than the slightly quirky front derailleur, Campagnolo's got its work cut out for improving it in a future generation.
I've been using Ultegra Di2 on my own bike for nearly a year now, and it's proven itself not only a brilliant update over the older version, but also more than a match for the more expensive Dura-Ace. The mechanics of both the brakes and the electronic motors and systems are all identical to Dura-Ace. That means servo wave assisted braking, along with better clearances, an improved shape and feel at the levers, and quick, accurate, reliable shifting. With built-in Bluetooth, you get the full connectivity that Di2 always had, but needed additional parts to access. That means Garmin head unit control and easy access to the Di2 options through Shimano's app. The semi-wireless system, which does away with the wiring from the shifter to the mechs, means a much cleaner looking bike. The large capacity seat tube battery has stayed, so you do need to keep an eye on wires, especially if you're removing or replacing your seat post. Pleasing aesthetics continue because the charge port for Di2 is now incorporated into the rear derailleur, meaning you no longer need a junction box mounted under the stem or at the end of your bar or integrated into the frame. Throughout the year, the shifts have stayed accurate, slick and smooth. Plus, I haven't had to touch or tweak anything, and the braking is just exemplary in every instance. Whichever way you look at it, Ultegra is brilliant. It does everything Dura-Ace does with a saving of more than £1,000. In my eyes, all Dura-Ace gets you is a 411 gram weight saving, or that's the equivalent of a 3/4 full 500 milliliter water bottle. If you want to hear even more about why I think Ultegra trumps Dura-Ace, then check out the full review in the description below.
This is a total cop-out, as I've included some variation of my Tandem in nearly every Gear of the Year roundup since I started at BikeRadar. However, I care not one jot. This year's 2-week tandem tour around my homeland in Scotland with my partner Laura was one of the most fulfilling and fun trips I have done in many, many years, and the bike was key to this. Riding a tandem is more sociable and amusing than touring on solo bikes. It's very, very hard to be mad or take yourself seriously when you look like such an idiot. Riding a loaded tandem into a headwind does feel a little bit like pushing a wheelie bin through the snow, but who cares? We were never in a rush on the tour, so if it meant we arrived at camp an hour later to scoff down our muffins and custard, which is delightful, who cares? A tandem's considerable heft also forces the day's pace to be mindful and unhurried. I felt like I knew Scotland to the marrow, but revisiting familiar places at touring pace reminds one that all corners of the earth give up their secrets slowly. You can expect the exact same message again next year, and if you haven't already, please give tandem riding a try.
One of the highlights for me this year was a back-to-back 100-mile ride with my colleague and good friend Jack. We stayed in a classic backpacker hostel on the stunning south coast in the town of Swanage, before heading back home to Bristol. It was safe to say I was struggling halfway through the return leg, and I had to especially dig deep up the final climb over the Mendip Hills. The gear I used on many of the longer rides this year, including the one I just mentioned, really did help me get through the tougher moments, whilst the old favourites continued to give me perfect service. The print design of the Kenya jersey from Ale is almost entirely enough reason to include it in my list. I can't deny the ego boost I got after receiving compliments from other riders mid-ride. Having said that though, the design could be a bit love it or hate it, so let me know what you think in the comments. But it's not here on looks alone, as the jersey's construction and fit suited me perfectly. It's made using 2 different fabrics. A micro aero fabric is used on the front and on the sides, and if you look really closely you can actually see small perforations. The combination provides a decent aero fit with plenty of breathability for when things get hot. The back of the jersey actually has carbon woven into the fabric, which is chosen for its antibacterial properties. This is perfect for my longer rides, which sometimes involve wearing the same jersey for multiple days. And then there's the overall fit. I think it strikes the perfect balance of being aerodynamic and racy, but still providing comfort and flexibility. As many of you will know, eating bigger meals during a longer ride will inevitably mean a bigger stomach, and I've ridden in some jerseys which don't really allow for that extra stretch, making for uncomfortable miles. But I didn't find that happening with this jersey. Plus, if I can save a few watts without riding in a more aggressive riding position, I'll take that option. A final shout out goes to the pockets at the back. They're stretchy enough to really stuff extra layers in there, but with enough stability so you don't feel like the contents are swinging around left, right and centre.
There may have been flashier products in my 2022 test bank, but I would argue that none have had a bigger impact on my riding this year than the Pirelli P-Zero Race 4S tyre. You'll often hear us say that one of the best upgrades you can make to your bike is fitting a new and better set of tyres. The P-Zero 4S might seem an odd choice. After all, over the course of 22, I've ridden the outstanding Conti GP5000 STR and GP5000 clincher tyres, Shorby's raciest Pro 1TT rubber, and a couple of flavours of Vittoria's highly rated Corsa tyres. Those might be faster and or more grippier, lighter, more supple and tubeless, delete as appropriate, but it's the P-Zero 4S that stood out for me. It offers the brand's race-derived Smart Evo compound, 120 threads per inch casing, and tips the scales at just 261 grams per 28C tyre. That's around 20 grams more than the lightest and fastest tyres around, but don't forget there's more of the compound here to present a thicker barrier between the inner tube and any errant road debris. You won't find a super sturdy puncture prevention belt here, but it's the use of the brand's tech belt layer, plus the extra compound, that helps to preserve the P-Zero 4S's compelling overall performance and ride feel while improving puncture resistance. I've not had one flat in more than 6 months of regular use. It's offered me peace of mind, plus I'm betting it will do the same for a great many of you who want performance without excess risk of standing by the roadside swapping your inner tube. Don't get me wrong, tubeless has its plus points in that regard. But in my mind, there's still comfort in the ease of a traditional clincher setup should things go wrong. It's fast enough not to dull the experience of riding on racy carbon rims, sturdy enough for year-round abuse, yet grippy when the road is wet, all while providing bags of lovely, lovely feel. In short, for me, it offers the most compelling blend of almost all the traits performance-oriented riders are usually looking for, and I've proven hardy to boot.